Yeah, hi, good morning. Oh, yeah, nice. Hot days are coming. Summer is rising. Colder days are getting shorter. Like, and we're also coming to the end of Ecclesiastes. I enjoy the series. How many of you like the series? First time we're doing Ecclesiastes in our church. Yeah, it all started in a very uh, Solomon, the most wisest person to ever exist, and he's saying, um, Kevin, nothing. What work are you doing? Yeah, vanity, waste. You're breathing, waste. You're looking for promotion, waste. You're buying new clothes, waste. What are you comparing this car or that car? Waste. So then, what should we do then? What is it that is not vanity? That Solomon didn't answer yet. So we're going to conclude everything. We're going to look at chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes. If you have the NIV Bible, the last couple of verses, from verse 9 to 14, there's a heading given. Conclusion of the matter. Very good. Yes. So now we are going to look at the conclusion of the matter. What is it? What is the answer to all these questions then? Is activity ultimately meaningless? Is anything ultimately satisfying? Because Solomon said here, you seek earthly pleasure? No, you won't get any satisfaction. Is there ultimately any comfort from oppression? Just like Mahesh was saying, there are all these bad things happening. There was a fire. We are getting oppressed, but we still press on, moving forward. Is there ultimately any comfort from oppression? Is everything ultimately meaningless? So we're going to look at chapter 12. Let's read verse 8. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 8.
Meaningless, says the teacher. Everything is meaningless.
Just before the verse of conclusion, from ninth verse, it's going to be the conclusion. Before that, again, he's saying, meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Saying everything. No, not just these one or two things. These 4, 5 things are meaningful in your life. You can pursue all this. No. Everything is meaningless. What is meaningful, we'll see further today. So imagine if heaven was like an airplane in an airport, going through all the security checks. Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of airports in my life, but Indian airports are super secure. They want to check every inch also. They want to, if they feel like, they'll dismantle your laptop also and check everything. They'll open the pages of your book also, check also. It's like walking through security checkpoint, and the security guy is saying, sir, you can't take this lighter with you on the airplane. So you can't take this gun with you on the airplane. Not a gun, it's only a toy. Man. No. Whatever that security person says is final, right? If you fight, then you're not getting on your flight. So just like that, imagine if heaven had a security point, and the checkpoint, God is there saying, sir, excuse me, you can't take this pride with you. You can't board the flight, sorry. No, that grudge won't fit in the overhead cabin. Sorry, you have to leave that and come. Like that, we are holding on to a lot of baggage, extra baggage that we want to carry in the cabin and go last minute. How many of you feel like life on earth is very long? And how many, 80, 90 years? What is this, boring? How long do I have to struggle, get married, save some money, buy a house, get a job, to look for promotions? Next year, we always want to earn money more than the previous year. We're looking for the, what do they call it? Performance hike? Annual performance review. Some score rating. We all want 4 out of 5. Oh, this band I got. 19.73% hike we have. Oh, wow, celebration party. Next year, or we want to beat that record. I want to do better. You go moving to a new job, you want to earn more than the previous job. You're buying a new fridge, you want to buy a better fridge. You're buying a new TV, you want to buy a better TV than the one you already had. All this that we're doing here is at the scale, when you put it in God's scale, it's like you're just half a step from the start line. There's entire eternity to go to, entire stretch of eternity. And we are just taking that one step and we're thinking, I'm just looking at my shoes and I'm thinking, I remember how much I went to all the showrooms for this shoe. This was my wedding shoe. Like 4-5 places I went, Bata, this, that, some red tape. Vanity, waste, what? What was it doing? I just wasted 3 hours of my life. For what? For that one step in the scale of eternity. And where are we? We're all of us in that one step only. Nobody is 3 steps forward or 5 steps behind. All of us are in that same spot. And we have entire eternity to look forward to. And what we're doing? We're carrying all this extra baggage. In this first step only, let me take this pride. Let me take this grudge along with me. Let me take all this. Let me go around with my friends. Let me do all this. Let me do all that. And then when we're there at the airport to board the flight to enter eternity, gone. Then that time you can't say, you're not allowed, God, you're not allowing this pride. Okay, I'll just leave this bag and come. It doesn't work like that. You have to leave all of that before you enter the airport, before you think about the journey. So now, how are we thinking about life? Life has a way of making us focus on the immediate things, deadlines, bills I have to pay, relationships, everyday struggles. Yeah, this is our focus. This is taking most of our time. Just like how during my wedding, this shoe took 3 hours of my time. Because I was getting married the next day. That was something immediate. I have to think of something. I have to do something. But what if we could just zoom out and see everything in the light of eternity? Would it change how we live? There's this famous preacher, C.S. Lewis. In his sermon, Learning in Wartime, he said, he posed the question, how should we make sense of anything? How should we make sense of anything at all in our present earthly lives while eternity waits beyond the grave? How should we make sense of anything then? Kevin, if you're saying everything is just useless, then how should we make sense of everything? How should we make sense of our present lives? Should we not meet our deadlines? Should we not pay our bills? Should we not worry about the relationships that we have? Should we not worry about our everyday struggles? Because that is a reality for everybody, right? We are having everyday struggles. We are having deadlines. We are having bills to pay. But eternity still awaits us. So when you're struggling in your everyday struggles, eternity is still waiting for you. In your struggle with your deadlines, with your bill payments, eternity is still waiting for you. Ecclesiastes helps us answer this question by shifting our focus from what is fleeting, which is everyday life. It is fleeting. It's just passing away, to what is forever. We are shifting our focus from what is fleeting to what is forever. Clicker is on. I didn't even switch it on. Okay, super. Yeah, so first point for today, knowing our place under God's care. Where do we fall under that? Ecclesiastes teaches that everything is fleeting, but God alone is permanent. We saw that when we spoke about time as well. Because time is fleeting, right? The second gone, you can't gain it back. But God alone is permanent. Let's read verse 13 from chapter 12. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. What does it say?
Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the duty of
This is the duty of all mankind. What is our duty? commandments. Fear God and keep his commandments. So, it's not like we have to always live in fear. What will happen? Let me just live under this basket, or let me not leave my room, because God has said, "Oh, fear Him." Only then that is my duty. I'll just live in fear. No, that is not. That's not the fear God is saying here. We have to live in reverence, knowing that we are created beings under the care of a very wise Creator. It's like a parent and child relationship. I have a daughter now. Yeah, she should fear me. But she shouldn't always live in fear that, oh, what will dad do if I just put my finger inside this plug point? Fat, she'll get one fat. Again, she'll go and do that only. Just like, it's like human behavior. We have a creator overseeing us, but with compassion. Just like how I look at my child with compassion. Oh, it's okay, I'll teach you again. Don't do that, don't put your finger in that. Maybe once she grows up, she'll understand my words. That is how God is looking at us. Okay, Kevin, once you grow up, you'll understand your mistakes. But for now, don't do that. We are created beings under the care of a wise Creator. We don't have to live in fear. We have to live in reverence. Like how we respect our parents, we have to live in reverence to God. We struggle with pain, grief, there are a lot of questions unanswered, but our hope is anchored in God. Let's read Mark chapter 7, verse 34. Mark chapter 7, verse 34. The first 5-6 words only is enough. Mark 7, 34.
After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into man's ears. Then he spat and touched the man's tongue. 7:34.
Mark 7, 34.
He looked up to heaven and with a deep sigh.
Enough. With a deep sigh. Jesus is looking up to heaven with a deep sigh. Go on.
Said to him, Ephphatha, which means be open.
The next verse, Mark 8, 12.
He sighed deeply and said, why does this generation ask for a sign?
Okay, enough. He sighed deeply. In both these verses, Jesus is, that's a sigh, right? Sabah, what are you guys doing? This generation, why do you want a sign? Jesus himself is groaning when he saw the brokenness of the world. There was no need for Mark to write the word sigh unless he saw Jesus physically doing that. Jesus saw the brokenness of this world. Yet he groaned in hope, knowing God's restoration was coming through himself. Because the people didn't know that the restoration was coming, what form of restoration will come, Jesus is letting out a big sigh. Why do you want signs? Just wait for another 3 years. Everything will be revealed to you guys. But Jesus didn't say that. He's just keeping that to himself. He's groaning within himself. As we are living through this world, are you living as though this world is all there is? Do you think that the first step that we are in the scheme of eternity, is that all? Or are we thinking about eternity? Yes, we are looking at all the immediate things in front of us. Eternity is not, we can't see it in front of our eyes. What we can see? The bills, credit card notifications, your deadlines, Slack messages, your everyday struggles, your parents calling you to look at this girl, hey, get married soon, why are you not looking at it? This is on our periphery vision. All these things are like this. If I turn here, oh, this is, if I turn here, credit card bill. Oh, you turn here, oh, Wi-Fi bill is. Turn here, then something else. But where do we turn to look at eternity? Are you living as though this world is all there is? Take a moment to acknowledge God's presence in your life and let go of the illusion of control. Second, our perspective on time, anchored in eternity. So since this is a concluding sermon, we are going to touch a little bit from the entire book of Ecclesiastes, because this is what the conclusion of the matter is. So Ecclesiastes constantly reminds us that time is short and little unpredictable also. Yesterday, IPL match, the first IPL match happened. Me and my wife were watching. We were like trying to predict who will win. See, next ball, I'm saying it'll be a 6. And who I don't know who was batting. Some guy, he hit a 6 also. My wife was like, hey, how do you know? Then next ball, this ball will be boundary, you see. It went for a boundary. Then I thought, I should get on this Dream 11 and all. I should put some 10 lakhs. Maybe I'll get 3-4 crores, maybe I'll get. I am getting a little, I feel like I can predict time. I feel like I can predict what will happen next. That's the only 2 balls I was able to predict that entire match. After that, nothing worked. Next ball, I'm saying a dot ball, he's hitting for a boundary. Next ball, I'm saying he'll be out. Again, he's hitting for a boundary. So, yeah. Just for those 2 balls, I was able to predict. How are we living life with that illusion that we're able to predict or we are able to control our own life? Yes, I can take this step now, but that is not predicting anything. I'm just doing it out of my own free will. Tomorrow, can you predict? In a month, can you predict? In a year, can you predict? Let's read verse 13 from chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes. Okay. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Yeah? All of us heard the entire Ecclesiastes. Yeah, we listened to Ecclesiastes. All has been heard. Here is the conclusion. Chapter 3, verse 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1, I'll read. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. The world is constantly changing and we long for something else. So the teacher in the book of Ecclesiastes here, Solomon, he calls us to embrace our limitations and trust God who holds time in his hands. Why? Because judgment is coming and it's not something terrifying, but as a moment when all wrongs will be made right. Judgment is coming when all wrongs will be made right. What are all the wrongs we see around us? Like the fire happening, the oppression happening, wars happening, natural calamities happening. What are all these things? Wrong things, right? We question God. God, what? Why are you sending this natural calamity? You have control over the ocean. You have control over rain. You have control over the earth. Why is this happening? Why is this fire happening? Why are these trains colliding? Why are so many people dying? Why are so many innocent people dying because of this war? Judgment is coming when all these wrongs will be made right. Let's read Psalms 98, verse 8 and 9. Psalms 98, verse 8 and 9.
Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the mountains sing together for joy. Let them sing before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the peoples with equity.
Yes. It's talking about the coming of God. What is creation doing here? The rivers, they're clapping their hands. The hills are singing for joy together. Because when the Lord comes, he will judge, he will make all the wrong things right. The final judgment is not about just punishment, it is about restoration, restoring creation as well. It is restoring humankind as well. It is the moment when true justice is going to prevail. Do we see judgment as a threat or as a promise? Do we see judgment as a threat or as a promise? When I was a little younger, I was a little afraid of judgment. Oh, God is going to come. Oh, second coming, I'm not ready. Oh, I just told a lie. Uh, I haven't repented yet. What do I do? Oh, no. Should I go to sleep? Maybe God will come in my sleep and I'm left. All these are valid fears, right? But we don't have to fear. We don't have to see it as a threat. Because after listening to today, we are going to look at eternity, right? In our periphery. Instead of all these bills, eternity is going to come to your vision, right? Yeah? How many of you will remember that in your periphery when you look at all these struggles, everything? Okay. Eternity is still there. This is still easy for me. Whatever is going to happen for me now. Judgment is going to come. I don't have to see it as a threat, but as a promise. Reflect on your life in the light of eternity. Are you ready to stand before God with confidence? Are you ready to board the flight and pass through security without any clearance, without any stoppage? Or are you going to carry some extra baggage with you? Facing life's hard questions. The book of Ecclesiastes asks a lot of hard questions. Because Solomon had all these questions within himself, he explored everything. He did everything. Wisest man on earth. And he still had unanswered questions. Ecclesiastes does not shy away from the deep, painful realities of life. Chapter 4, verse 1 of Ecclesiastes says, "Again I saw the oppressors that are done under the sun, and behold the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them." All these natural disasters, all the wars that is happening, people are getting oppressed in all these places. And there's no one to comfort them. Ecclesiastes is talking about all those people. Sometimes I feel depressed. I feel oppressed. I mean, not oppressed, it's a strong word. I feel down. I feel low. I don't know who I can share with. We struggle with life. We struggle with evil things happening around us. We struggle with a lot of suffering and injustice. We see a lot of injustice happening in our country as well. We see innocent lives lost, disasters striking without warning. In our modern world, we try to often ignore all these brokenness. I feel, especially in India, we try to ignore more. I think we have a little thicker skin. When I was doing my master's outside of India, I used to tell about some normal things in our life. And for them, it was like, oh, how did you even come across that? How did you even cross all of that and come? For my friend to even think about that, so difficult. But in our country, it's like normal. Yeah, people just randomly beat you up and go. Can't do anything about it. You go complain to the police, you'll only get beaten up. Injustice is happening. Everywhere we see, we can see all these injustice. We often try to ignore these brokenness. But Ecclesiastes teaches us to face it head on. Now don't go tomorrow to the police station and say, Kevin told me face head on. No, I'm going to face it on. No, not that head on. We are going to be facing all these struggles head on because we have eternity in the picture. You see all these struggles? We are facing it with eternity in the picture. The oppressor, the person who's oppressing us, might not have eternity in their picture. The answer is to not despair, to not be grumbling, so much struggle, that's it, my life is over. No, but trust in God's promise to make all things new. How do I know this? Because in Revelation 21, chapter 5, it says, Revelation 21, chapter 5, "Behold, I am making all things new." When? Tomorrow. Might be tomorrow also. Eternity. In eternity, Revelation says, "Behold, I am making all things new." This is our hope, that God will wipe away every tear and restore what was lost. We get a glimpse of this in Job's life. That's a glimpse of, behold, I'm making all things new. Because Job's reality is earth. And everything he owned was gone, over, done, dead. Cattle was gone, family was gone, money was gone, his health was gone, body was gone, everything gone. What does he have? He still holds on to God. And what is happening there? Behold, I am making all things new. Renewed body, renewed family, a renewed farmland, renewed animals, everything. How is that possible? Because God is saying, behold, I am making all things new. This can be very helpful for us to believe this. For me, it was very difficult to put my head around, hey, what is the second coming? How will everything be new? It happened for Job. It is going to happen for all of us. This is our hope, that God will wipe away every tear and restore what was lost. Are you willing to trust God even when life doesn't make sense? Take your questions and surrender them to God. He sees what we cannot. We cannot see eternity in front of us. We cannot answer all of the questions that we have. But God can answer all your questions. Because even in this book of Ecclesiastes, there are a lot of unanswered questions. We will look at that next. How God is answering those questions. Living with eternal purpose. The teacher in Ecclesiastes does not just tell us to wait for eternity. Because I just told you, we're at step 1, we have to look at eternity. Yes, on our periphery. But that shouldn't just be your whole life. You shouldn't just take a chair, sit in the corner, okay, bus. What are you doing? Waiting for eternity. You want to cook? Kevin, can you just wash the vessels a little bit? No, Anita, I can't wash the vessels. I'm waiting for eternity. Can you just make some tea? My head is saying, no, nothing. Everything is vain. You don't drink the tea. Let's come sit together. Let's wait for eternity. No, don't do that. That is not what Ecclesiastes is saying. He calls us to live fully in the present also. Chapter 9, verse 7. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 7. What does it say?
Go eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do.
Go eat your bread. Go make your tea. Eat your tea. Drink in peace. Have a joyful life. Go out to restaurants. Enjoy some nice food. For God has already approved what you do. Death is inevitable, but it should not paralyze us. Eternity is going to come, but that should not paralyze us in our present. Instead, it should motivate us to live a little wiser. That's why I said all these points here. Love deeply, work diligently, share generously, and worship wholeheartedly. Don't go sit in a corner waiting for eternity. Do not waste time chasing the wind. Invest in things that will last beyond this life. Are you living with eternity in mind? Make a conscious decision to prioritize what truly matters. What is it that truly matters? God, people, and your eternal legacy. Not your credit card points, not the car you're driving, not your bank balance, not the number of houses you owned. It is God and His people. So now, in conclusion, we're going to look at all these unanswered questions that I was telling you that I will get back to, right? What are some of those unanswered questions? So what is the answer then to these unanswered questions? Is activity ultimately meaningless? 12:12. Ecclesiastes 12:12. What does it say?
Be warned, my son, of anything in addition to them, of making many books there is no end, and much study wearies the body.
The teacher writes, he has seen all the things done under the sun, and that all of them are meaningless. While that might have been true in the past, our actions and its purpose have been transformed by Christ. So as Paul tells you, creation was subjected to frustration. but has now been liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom of glory of the children of God. Where does this say? Let's read Romans chapter 8, verse 20 and 21.
For the creation was subjected to the frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God.
Yes. So creation is subjected to frustration, but now it has been liberated from its bondage. How? In Jesus, our activities ultimately become meaningful. In Jesus, our activities have a purpose. In Jesus, everything we do has a meaning. Because Jesus didn't just die on the cross to give us eternity. He died on the cross to live on this earth and then go to eternity. Otherwise, after his death, we could have just started with eternity, right? Okay, Jesus died? Okay, yes. Let's begin. Everybody has eternity now. No, that didn't happen. There is a period of time on earth where we are under the constriction of time, where Solomon was also under the constriction of time, where he had this particular question of, is everything meaningless then? He's saying everything is meaningless. Meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless. But what did Solomon not have? What did Solomon not see? The eternity that is coming, that is in the form of Jesus Christ. His time was before Jesus. So he is foreshadowing what Jesus is going to do. Eternity is being promised for all of us present here. So all activities have a meaning for us. Throughout most of the books of the Old Testament, we're able to see Jesus in various types, such as Joseph, reflected some traits of Jesus, Moses, and then we see David. So in the fulfillment of predictions, or in the fulfillment and embodiment of various biblical patterns, we are able to see Jesus. But to clearly see Jesus in Ecclesiastes, we must look to Jesus as the answer to all the questions raised by this book of Ecclesiastes. All the questions that the teacher, which is Solomon, is raising here. What is the second question that he's raising here? Jesus answers the questions of Ecclesiastes. Sorry, let's look at the second question. Is anything ultimately satisfying? Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1. The teacher said he pursued pleasure to seek satisfaction, but found that it also proved to be meaningless. Earthly pleasures can only satisfy our needs and desires for a brief time. Our ultimate satisfaction comes only in knowing and gaining Christ. How do we know that? Let's read Philippians chapter 3, verse 8.
What is more, I consider everything a loss because of surpassing worth of knowing Jesus Christ, my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them garbage, that I may gain Christ.
Considers everything else as garbage just to gain Christ. So our ultimate satisfaction comes only in knowing and gaining Christ. Key word to note here is gaining, not just knowing Christ. All of us know Christ. Many people outside also knows Christ. But have you gained Christ? In order to gain Christ, you have to lose other things. You have to let go of some things to get something. That's all. If you're already taking all this extra baggage, you're not taking Christ with you, you will not be allowed to pass through security. You have to let go of all of those things, gain Christ, then you'll be allowed. This guy has Christ, you can board on the plane to eternity. Let's go. Is anything ultimately satisfying? What is the answer to this question? Jesus is the ultimate satisfaction. Gaining of Christ is our ultimate satisfaction. Because, what does that verse say?
What is more, I consider everything a loss because of surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus.
Everything else is a loss. The surpassing worth of just knowing and gaining Christ and everything else, he's comparing these two things.
For whose sake I have lost all things.
Lost all things. For gaining this, he has lost all things. Philippians is saying this. So in Jesus, we find the source of our ultimate satisfaction. It's not our performance review. It's not our promotion. It's not the school where your kid is studying that is giving you the satisfaction. No. In Jesus, we find the source of our ultimate satisfaction. Next question, what is it? Is there ultimately any comfort from oppression? Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 1 to 3, it says about all the oppression that is happening around us on earth. The teacher saw all the oppression occurring on earth and determined that the oppressed have no comforter. Yeah, it says in Ecclesiastes in those first 3 verses that the oppressed people have no comforter. What is this happening? That is the question that Solomon is putting up. Jesus is the comforter that the teacher is seeking. Jesus is the comforter that Solomon was not given the privilege to see. Whereas we have that privilege to see, that Jesus is the ultimate comforter for all the oppressed. Jesus gives rest to the weary and burdened. We see this from Matthew 11:28. Someone read Matthew 11:28.
Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened,
And I will give you rest. Jesus gives rest to the weary and burdened. And his grace gives us eternal encouragement and good hope. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 16.
May our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loved us and by his grace gave us eternal encouragement and good hope.
Give us eternal encouragement and good hope. Even in today's worship, we were singing a song. Jesus Christ is my living hope. Is there ultimately any comfort from oppression? Yes. In Jesus Christ, who is our living hope, we have the ultimate comfort. Even in the midst of our oppression, this is something that we can hold on to. Final question, what is it? Is everything ultimately meaningless then? 12:8, we read this verse. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Everything is meaningless. After examining the world, in his final chapter, 8th verse, Solomon is saying this. What Solomon is missing here is that after death, we will be resurrected and spend eternity with God. Because of the resurrection, we can give ourselves fully to the work of the Lord, knowing that our labor is not in vain. How do we know? Let's read 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58.
Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in Lord is not in vain.
Always give yourself fully to the work of the Lord, because your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Whereas here in Ecclesiastes, we see everything is in vain. Your labor, waste. Everything is meaningless, meaningless. But because of resurrection and eternal life that is promised for us, because of what Christ did on the cross, everything becomes meaningful for us. In Jesus, we find our ultimate meaning. Through Jesus, we find our living hope. Through Jesus, we have a way to enter eternity. When we are standing there in the queue of the security check-in, when someone is pulling us over because we're having all this pride and baggage, Jesus comes there for us. Hey, he's my guy. He knows me. He has me. Let him through. Choose today to live, not for what is temporary, but for what is eternal. Love God, love others, and anchor your hope in Christ. Let's close in prayer. Lord Jesus, thank you for this. Thank you for this wonderful promise, Lord.